Hi, everybody. Brad here. And I just want to be so thankful that my first ever interview on this channel is coming up right now. Close personal friend, Julie Penner. Why should you care about Julie Penner? Julie Penner not only has a JD MBA here from Boulder, Colorado, where I met her, she was also managing director of Techstars Boulder, where she helped pick, analyze, and coach over 130 companies. She's since become a venture capitalist. She's been a COO and an operator. And right now, her current largest endeavor, she does a lot of things, is something called the soul of startups. This is about the stuff that actually matters and changes the founder behavior and profiles and accretes value. Every time she talks about the soul of startups with me, I say that's the missing piece between the successful people and the not. Now, aside from her credentials, why are we having this conversation here today? She and I get breakfast a lot, and somebody came to breakfast and she didn't the other day. His name is Charlie, and Charlie has a 4-year-old startup. He's raised millions in venture. They're not quite revenue to revenue yet, and they're really on that precipice of winning or losing. The question Charlie has is, how does he have a thought process, a decision matrix, or a framework for should he stay or should he go? Julie, having helped hundreds of companies launch, run, exit, or let it go, had some brilliant thoughts on the framework. This is about an hour long video, but I got to tell you, it's worth your time. If you don't have a full hour right now, consider chunking this up because we go through a lot of extremely valuable frameworks. Thank you for your time. Oh, hi, Julie. Thank you so much for being here. For everyone who doesn't know, Julie Penner is a fellow JD MBA. That's where we met, and she was the managing director of Techstars. I'll give you more of her credentials later, but Julie and I were talking, and I right now have a client who is in the should I stay or should I shut down my startup? And I thought the easiest way to do this would be give Julie a scenario she doesn't really know about, see what she thinks about from frameworks, from concepts, from design, and then we might have a couple other scenarios in there. But Julie, is it okay if I give you Charlie's scenario?
Yes, I would love to hear more about Charlie's current status.
Charlie's current status, multi-time founder, had a small exit, what I call rent money. Like he never has to worry about rent, or for a couple of years can be a family man, but it's not plane or boat money. And he just after the pandemic saw a new opportunity in fintech. Fintech, of course, requires a lot of things, including financial capital, including operations, and all these things. He's been building his platform for about 3.5 years. He's right on the cusp of bringing the simultaneity problem together, the capital, the operations, the SEC. He's got yeses from everyone, but packaging together the first real sale, which in his case is probably about a $5 million loan. So it's a big thing. But it's one of those issues that my good friend Matt Vogels used to describe. You keep pouring more energy in, but it's like getting closer to the speed of light. You're pouring more energy, but you can't quite cross the barrier. And he has other opportunities and stuff in his life. And his big question for me was like, Brad, I think I'm right there, but I don't know if I'm like 1 week or 6 months. I don't know if I can raise more, but it seems more viable than ever. And I'm also exhausted. I've run out of personal money. My wife, our second babies. So I thought, okay, what advice do we get from a framework or concept?
Mm.
Julie, you are one of my people to do frameworks with, so I'd love your thoughts on Charlie's scenario.
Yeah, I have seen this one. I've seen this one. I have another most common one, which is it's making some money, but
Yeah.
it's not making enough money or not growing fast enough. Should I keep going at it? Like those, I think, are probably the two most common. Like it's about to work. It's the Charlie problem, and the like it's working, but not as much as I would like it to. And I think we should talk about both.
Yeah.
Um, there are two, actually, I have three tools. They're kind of related. The analogy I like to think about when I ask a founder about where they are on the journey is to use a marathon analogy.
Mm.
Because we talk about, oh, building a company is like, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it really does feel like that if you're in
No,
it.
it feels like 26.2 1 mile sprints.
Yeah. Um, and the way I like to check in with founders is what mile marker are you on? And because one of the things it does is it helps them get out of their head around the like I actually don't care about the business. I want to know with that question where you are personally, with how much energy and life force you have to commit to this thing. And I know that your answer to that question might change tomorrow or next week, or your winter answer might be different than your summer answer,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an important note, right? I think one thing founders tend to be, or at least think that they are very logic driven, and that's just a fallacy, right? We all are all emotionally driven. I think founders are actually more emotional than the average person because you got into this business for some emotional reason. And I think it's important to know where you're at with that reckoning of the emotional reason you got into this. How much more do you think you have to kind of scratch this itch or see if this will work? Like the reason you got started, if you check in with that, how much energy or interest or curiosity do you still have there? Um, I think it's a better way to check in with just that emotional sense of where I'm at in this journey and the reason I chose to take up this mantle in the first place. So I have advice and thoughts on what to focus on based on what I hear from an answer.
Sure.
And I'll say that like I'm also not looking for that answer to be the answer today. Like I want to ask again in 2 weeks and again in 2 weeks and see if we're consistent before we really start changing the ship.
Which makes sense. It's almost like a KPI for the emotional state of the founder, which is something one thing I often do, and I do it in the three parts. I first do an analytical thing, so like what are the numbers? Then I do an emotional thing, like how's the team driving or gelling, and then I do their own why statement and meaningful things. And the reason I do that is kind of let's exhaust the monkey brain, let's take care of the emotional brain, and then let's get to the core, the soul, or the heart of you. I love that methodology as well. And that's the hard thing, right? Because when specifically Charlie came to me with this, he was all pathos, right? He was all emotion. He was all over it because he's feeling everything at once. But then he's trying to codify it for me in his scenario, what he thinks of his scenario logically. And I was like, oh, well, okay, I can ask him the leading questions to try and Socratic method him into it something, but I was thinking you might have a framework or the right questions to ask
Yeah.
to help get to a person to a place where you can give realistic, actionable, hey, drink a glass of water advice, right? Not
Yeah.
yeah, this thing's dead and you need to kill it and you've been holding on too long.
Yeah.
Or
I think there's a lot of clarity that you can't there on the ends. I think there's clarity. And in the middle, it's not. It's like
uh
I think it's sitting with uncertainty a bit longer and noticing like, hey, if my diet, sleep, and exercise are good for 2 weeks, is this still my answer?
yeah.
Or one founder, I mean, was we were driving and they were in tears about their startup, just like the frustrations, kind of like where Charlie is at that, a low moment, pretty low in the business. If you take the whole business overall, like that was definitely a low. And I think one of the things that someone who is non-judgmental can do for that founder is to hold space for like, okay, it's done. Great. What does that mean? That means like let's go find somebody to sell this business to. What does that mean for investors? Like have you had conversation with like start walking through the things that uh it will take to wind down this business. And when I started doing that, this founder was like, I'm not ready for that. I have like
Yeah.
they notice their own energy. They're like, no, I'm not done. I'm super frustrated, but I'm not done. And so now I think that it's why I have that marathon question, right? And even someone who says they're done, like, I'm done. I'm throwing, like, I've had it. I had another founder this spring, right? But she was on day 7 of a flu.
Yeah.
And her co-founder had just left, right? Like, not that recently left and or somewhat recently left. And I'm sitting back from the cheap seats going, oh well, oh you're on the down slope of the roller coaster. I can see it from here.
Yeah.
And I want you to like if it continues to go down or bottoms and stays, let's make a change and call it. But the like I'm done, 2 weeks later, call her and she had made a sale and it was actually
Yeah.
clients she'd been working on for a year converted, right? And I'm like, oh, it's on the more often than not. It's a crazy amount of times that in a fortnightly cadence with my clients every other week that they'll be on one side or the other of that roller
Oh,
coaster.
rapid cycling.
Yeah, rapid cycling, right? And so that's part of why like I want this to be true for at least 2 or 3 2-week sessions because I know that cycle time of startups up and downs that I'm done with like clarity to be true over multiple calls. And
What
then
I
like
like
things like
it,
seasonality and little setbacks, like again, you gotta, is that really what's influencing you?
well,
Go
a
ahead.
couple things like one of the people who hold space non-judgmentally outside people. Our job is to have perspective. No one has perspective on the back of their own head. Doesn't matter how smart and tall or handsome you are, you just don't. And so having that is really good. But what I like you did is something that you used a very similar framework that I use in a different way, which is when someone's struggling with whether to fire someone. And in startup land, it's most commonly a co-founder or one of the first employees, somebody who was valuable, and then there's been a change. The company's changed, the finances changed, or their attitude has changed. Their situation in life has changed. And the thing I always say to do is, well, vet out the administration of firing the person. You know, figure out the HR, how much you'd have to pay them. If it's a somebody who got early stock, founder or employee, stock story and status. But don't do it. Just spend an hour vetting out the admin list. And by the time you've done that, you'll know.
You'll know
And
how
if
you
like
feel
go
about it.
you'll know how you feel about it. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you just did. And it's hard, right? Because you're asking a person who's on tilt to do more homework, but it's really good homework because it seems administrative, but it's actually working on your soul, working, and that's, I say, consent to muck with your soul. You say soul of the startups. So like that works pretty well.
What can I talk
Absolutely,
about
please.
other answers on this marathon? So, or like, let me give you a framework because I think, some people will check in on that and they're like, oh, actually, I say I'm done, but I'm actually on mile 23
Hmm.
or my mile 21. Like and that might be accurate. I actually trust that piece more than the like, I'm throwing in the towel, kind of that feels very reactionary to me. But if a founder sits back and says, like, I'm I'm past halfway on what I can do on this business,
Yeah.
regardless of where the business can be doing great. That's the other thing I like about this question. It is irrespective of the success in the business. This is about where you are as a founder
Yep.
on this business. Um, and so but I do have, if I can give you some different actionable things to focus on based on your answer.
Please.
So, if you answer anything in the first half, mile 1 to 13, my suggestion is to focus on growth. Just keep growing the thing in whatever ways that are meaningful to you, whether it's slow and steady, big, more employees, more efficiency, whatever growth means to you, just keep growing the thing because it most likely to get you to
Keep jogging, drink water.
yeah, there you go. Love it. If you're in mile 13 to 20, then I think you need to focus on sustainability because you're on the back half, but you're not like looking at the finish line, right? You're like, oh, I need to strategize around my goos and my, rely on my training. I need to figure out how to take vacations that are enough to get me refreshed, but not take the business off track. I need to learn to delegate, like these skills that build a more sustainable business for you personally, because you want to continue to run for a while, but just not close. The finish line's not close.
I love this too, just to overlap my metaphors. This is what I call the stage four, a young but real business. It doesn't have to be right in there, but that's when you got to start doing things like you said, take a meaningful vacation. Because if you do what I said at the top of this, which was if you're running 26.2 1 mile sprints, what's really going to happen is everyone thinks you're going to get exhausted. That may or may not happen. What's really going to happen is you're going to get injured and you're not going to finish the race. right? If you don't
Yes.
pace yourself, if you don't put in sustainability, if you've got a 7 year plan, but you've only got 5 years in the tank financially, emotionally, with your relationships, you're never going to achieve your 7 year goal. But what I like is that you gave people permission to kind of just go hog wild and crush it for the first 13 miles ish. But then you have to have a change that
Right.
miles 13 to 20 because you're never going to hit 26 if you treat the back half like you did the front half. That's really good advice.
And I just want to call it one important distinction here. This framework is completely disaggregated from the stage of the business.
It's fair.
Yeah, and you can put them together, and I do think there's some value there. But this is literally it is your business could be at any growth rate at any stage, and it doesn't need to be mapped. And I think there's
That's fair.
benefits to both, right? There are benefits to both, and maybe there's more reality built into the one where, like, if you're at this stage, you should be thinking about sustainability. Um, but
So the
there's
reason that I
also,
do that, by the
yeah,
way, just to hit it, so young real business, right? We're not going anywhere. We've gone through the good luck wasteland. We're out of launch and commit zone. And but what we're looking for next, right? Because every stage is about the stage itself and about preparing for next. The stage itself is the company's job. The preparing for next is the CEO's job. Well, the fifth stage of a startup in my lexicon is finally ready for enterprise sales. You don't realistically get enterprise sales if you haven't been around as a sustainable business. You've got the same staff, you've got the same logo, you've been around for a little while. Like you might trip and fall on your Uncle Bucky happens to work for, big company, and you might get that first deal, but really getting enterprise sales, you don't do unless you've been around for a while. Well, that's why sustainability becomes so important at stage 4 because that's the period where you have to be sustainable so that you can get to that next big thing. And of course, something to say to the whole audience is, if you torture any framework long enough, you'll find its edges and it'll scream in pain. Or the other way to say it is the best frameworks in the world are right 80% of the time, and most aren't the best.
and or they're just ways to helpfully think about it. Maybe I'm a founder and it's my first startup, and I really like now that I'm a year into it, I realize I only have 3 years, and I'm nowhere near stage 4. I'm still in
Yeah.
stage 1.
Yep.
And I need, but I'm more than halfway through this journey, and I need to switch to sustainability. That's I
Sure.
think what I'm offering is that like as a founder, you have a choice not to fit the growth curve of the business, and you might not. And if you don't, then be realistic about what your capacity is and make appropriate decisions. Especially as a founder, you have more say about how that goes, right? You might need to have I'm not going to do this for 5 or 7 years. This is a 3 year business because that's how I'm built. So,
Yep.
so that's
Love that.
I think there are benefits to both. But I want to finish up. Okay, so focus on growth, focus on sustainability. If you answer something between 20 and 25, or like 20 and 24, because we'll talk about like 25 to 26, like last couple miles, like you could almost see the finish line and like you need a ripcord. That's a different energy. But like I'm close, but maybe I have 6 months, a year, 18 months. I can run for a little bit, but I need to know that there is an end point to this.
Yes. The
That
uncertainty
it's
needs to drop, even if it's a lot more work. I know that if I show up to work for 18 more months,
yep, like
okay.
senioritis. That's how I would call it.
Oh,
So uh here I would say the focus is on focus on growth, focus on sustainability. Now it's focus on relationships,
okay.
because the way you exit your company is with somebody you already know. So it's saying yes to partnerships. It's saying yes to joint ventures. It's saying yes to, uh, launching on your platform or doing a integration or, like lots of, how can you have more intersectionality with other companies? Like that's how you're going to have an exit. It could be at
I'll tell you why
conferences.
that's brilliant in a minute, but I want to hear the last one or last two.
So let's focus on relationships, because you can watch those flourish. You have long enough to invest in relationships, to set up like quarterly or monthly calls with people who you think might be a good fit for your business. Um, do things that build the relationship with people that again might either help you get acquired or acquire you, right? You have that ability, right? And I'm assuming you have enough runway to get there. That's baked into that assumption. But if you answer consistently, you're in the mile 25 or 26, like I'm done, I need a ripcord, then you need to be like shopping the deal, right? So the focus is on an exit plan. That could be wind down, could be an acquisition, could be an acqui-hire. And I have another framework to think about your exit priority pie chart,
Oh,
which I want to talk about because it is an exercise. And like you should do that. I think you should do that exercise regardless of whether you're in those one or the other of those last two camps. If you're past mile 20, you should just take an inventory on, and I have 6 criteria I can think of that I think you should make your pie chart of.
I think we should hold that for another topic with conversation today. I would love to do that with you. But so the one Miles 2024, I'd never actually thought about it before, but the person Matt Vogels who talked to me about this is like approaching the speed of light. And he's putting more and more energy in. It's harder and harder. And he was a person who actually was very good at fundraising, but the launch, the click go, the things like that, they always required more effort. It had to be from him, just nature of a startup in this case. But what did actually help him break the barrier was relationships. It for sure was that. But then on the flip side, when you talk about the Charlie case, what is causing him the frustration and angst? Everybody he's in relationship with is just kind of dragging their feet and living their own life. And if he got the right people in the right room in 4 hours, everything would be solved and everybody would be making money. But he has no ability to get the right people in the right room because this is a side project for everybody involved, the capital, the fintech ops people, the SEs, right? And so the relationships are both the cause and the solution of all these problems, which for anyone who knows The Simpsons, Homer often says, beer, the cause and solution to all of my problems. And it turns out in the founder soul, in the founder world, you're saying focus on the relationships, even though those are what are like seem to be your barrier, they're also what are going to get you out of here. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thoughts for Charlie is based on, are you in mile 20 to 24 or are you at 25 to 26? Because if
Yeah.
you're in 25 to 26, let's find a soft landing and move on with life. Like, you know what an exit is, you know what it feels like to win. Like, maybe this isn't it. Let it die. That can be a hang up for folks who like, what's really keeping you, like, if you're in 25 and 26, what's keeping you from like picking up the phone and shopping this to the front people you already know?
Yeah.
What's stopping you from like just winding something down tomorrow? Like, and it's
So
usually
often it's
fear,
sunk cost fallacy,
sunk cost fallacy, grief,
inertia,
failure,
grief. Yeah.
inertia. Yep, those, right. But if he answered somewhere in the 20 to 24, no, no, I have a little bit left, then I think you're right. Like what needs to change for this to work? And what timelines are we gonna give it? Even that last part, like what timelines are we gonna give it? Honestly, I think is kind of BS. Here's why. And this is why I think this mile marker is can be a really powerful tool for founders. Is if it I have another founder I'm thinking about who has been on the precipice of breakthrough for years. He started the business like 3 or 4 years ago. He just signed a deal with a Fortune 500 company, like
Cool.
a huge logo in his industry. And I hope it goes well. I think this could be a good breakthrough. Like he's raised less than $1 million, and it's been mostly him. Hasn't had the right people around the table, right? Kind of similar to the Charlie story. And I hope this is the breakthrough moment for companies because I think all companies have these near-death experiences. Like that's hard to reconcile. Every founder story that I heard of a successful business, and I heard so many in my, we would do them weekly for years. They all had a near-death moment.
Yeah. But
or multiple, right?
oh,
So it's hard.
companies I'm on the board of have had multiple, and some of them are emotional debt, and some of them are pivot debt. And so I want to ask you a different thing. So you're talking
Yeah.
about let's pretend Charlie had said he's in the 2024, and let's kind of maybe move on from Charlie, move on to somebody else. Can you give me a framework or a story from somebody that clearly waited too long? Right? Because the mistake that I at least want to scratch the itch. Some people leave too early, some people leave too late. And so if Charlie's like at the 2024,
Mm.
the answer is work on your relationships, give it a little more time. But is
Yeah.
there somebody where it's like, now, if I knew then what I know now, we were insolvent, we would never attack the market. Yeah, some people call it the cruel sea analysis. If I can go back to another time, I would have
Yeah.
quit then.
Do you know what I think usually happens in those cases, to be
Mhm.
honest? I can think of a couple founders that are in this bucket. They just wouldn't like they just were committed to the thing
Yeah.
for reasons beyond money. And that's important to know. Like the mission or the
Ego.
I'm trying
No.
in one case it was the mission for sure. In the second one, I think it was wanting to see this beautiful thing in the world. Like they created a physical product that they just wanted like it because it worked, and
Yeah.
they had spent a lot of time creating it. I don't think it was ego so much as like just wanting to see this beautiful thing succeed. And here's what I think usually happens, is that they figure out a way to make it work with just them.
So
Like
they strip
either,
out everything else, and so the company becomes something different. And then because everyone else either isn't as zealot to the whys or the missions, or other assets are out, friendships, relationships, paying people.
yeah, they can't pay people. That's usually the
That
one.
is usually one of the things. So the
That's
mission
usually
continues
the
with one
thing.
person.
And then they like maybe they have a spouse who has job and health insurance, right? And that's pretty common. And they it's like the balance of meaning and just enough money coming in um, is enough for them, and they continue to go. And it's not enough for anybody else. And I have companies that are making some money, where the founders would say they're in mile 20 to 24, and it's all on them, and they get to continue doing that. All of those founders have found something internal, usually mission, to keep going.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because the two companies that I've been on the board of that I feel are the most successful followed that pattern. And now they're regrowing the company, and it's had enough time. Both of them kind of needed enterprise sales, and they just couldn't get there quick. They couldn't hack it. Like they couldn't get to enterprise sales in less than 1,000 days. They didn't have 1,000 days, so they changed that. But there are a couple stories that I do have about
Mhm.
founders who just literally wake up and they're broken. Their physical bodies are broken. They're overweight. They're under stress. They've got Achilles tendonitis because they haven't taken care. Maybe they're running too much or too hard. Booze is a good favorite friend, and their wife finally said, "We need to go to a marital counselor."
Yeah.
Right. And when you hear all those things, you're like, well, you invested too much into this business, because if you got this business as far as you got it, quitting with integrity, and I'm using the word quitting because it's tough. Quitting with integrity will get you further than sticking with integrity, because sorry, sticking without integrity,
Yeah.
because you've lost the integrity of this business by destroying yourself.
I agree. I agree. I feel like I've seen founders who mostly just like if they're well supported, they find a way through that if they want to keep going.
Yeah,
If
I
they
hear
have
you.
this if they have the support. I do have a decision tree though for you. I have another
I
tool.
would like to hear the decision tree, and then maybe kind of start. Well, we can talk for as
Wrap
long
it
as we want.
up.
Yeah, we
Yeah. Okay.
have enough tape.
So, is it making even a little money? So
Yep.
that's question number one for me. If no, is that sustainable? If the answer is no, then call it. I think that's
Yep.
your broke. Is it making money? No, it's broken. It's breaking me and or my family. Call it. Like
Yep.
that's the easy end of the spectrum. Okay. Is it making money? No. Is it sustainable? Yes. So that's what we were talking about. Like, either I have a trust fund, or I have a partner or I will eat ramen, whatever.
Yep.
Yes. Um, this is actually an interesting question I have here. Do you know why you want to continue? This is like I'll get to a founder who's like it's not quite working yet, but they're not quite ready to give it up, and so that's this is not quite. It's kind of sustainable. It's not. It's uncomfortable. Ugh. Uh, and my answer is like, do you know why you want to continue? If their answer is no, my action is to sit with it.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Why didn't you call it 6 months ago? Why, if I push you on calling it quits, are you like, do you sense resistance? And they may or may not know why. If it is not making money, but it is sustainable and they know why they want to continue, then keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That you kind of just got into the like this is the tough part of being a founder,
Yeah.
and that sucks. And I'm here with you, and also have some relief. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Maybe even though the business, it's not a great business, it's not even making money. Maybe something will come of it, or maybe it's feeding your soul in a way that is not as easy for the rest of the world to reward as dollars are. So,
Okay.
so keep going. All right. So is it making even a little money? Yes. Okay. So this is the yes pile. I love this decision tree, by the way. Are you done? Like if I say that question, are you done? And you say, no, I'm not done. Right. Keep going.
Yeah.
If you say yes, right? So it's like, I'm done. My next question is, have you felt this way for 3 to 6 months?
Mm.
And if the answer is no, wait.
Sure.
Just
Roller
wait.
coaster.
See what cycles. It could be a lot. Then if you say yes, I am done, and I have felt this way for 3 or 6 months, and I'm gonna like gut check with you. You're not lying to yourself. Then I have that mile marker, right? Okay, well then where are you? And you're probably in the 20 miles on, and then we can talk about some strategies about like how close are you to needing to be done, and how do we get you the soft landing is the best outcome here.
Uh, that's amazing, and that's that decision tree. What I love about it is, um, it's a perfect thing for everyone to do, and it's always going to give imperfect answers. But if you're starting with in the Charlie decision, I don't know. And he's just literally coming like I don't know. It's like, okay. Well, the starting of wisdom is trying to do this and take from others, which that's what the framework's for, right? It's a whole bunch of other people you've met and talked to, and then you created the framework. So it's got the wisdom of others within it. And its job isn't to answer your question. And job is for you to go through the process of answering the question, and then the
Mm.
truth will reveal. And I very much appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of these answers are like, sit with it, wait,
Yep.
and uh that's the reality of this decision. I think you can rush it. I think there are a couple of realities. You can rush it and underestimate your how externalities are impacting your thinking in this in at this moment and this time. And I also believe that founders have a deep knowing about how much gas is left in the tank.
Ah. Ah. Um, I love that. Maybe kind of just tell me, because that's like I love that so much, because one of my jobs that I look at to help people is to get down to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter for this stuff is almost always go with your gut, because the two decisions are it's impossible to tell and somebody has to decide. Right? It's left or right, and we've done all of our stuff, and there's 7 things that say go left, and there's 7 things that say go right, and there's only supposed to be 10 things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, but I'll support you no matter what decision you make. But the truth is, your gut is more intuitive and stronger than you think, because you're the only person in the world who obsesses about this, observes the company and all that. And you may not know logically up at the top of your head why your gut is saying go left,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I say one more thing building on
yeah,
that?
I want to actually talk about Soul of the Founder and how this relates. So say one thing, and then maybe we'll go there.
Well, so it goes back to the skill of self-awareness, which is
Yeah.
such a foundational skill, and for all leaders, for all people, and this is how it plays out in startups, right? Is that someone with high self-awareness will have answers to both of those questions that I just said, right? They will be able to notice and not over-index on the up and downs of the roller coaster, or like, oh, I'm really moody today. I ate a pint of ice cream last night. Maybe I shouldn't be making decisions about quitting my business or not today. Like, there's they can see that they're being affected, and it's not a hit on their ego that they live in a body and it outputs chemicals that impact their thoughts, right? That they've accepted and are aware of those realities, right?
I love it.
Yeah. And then the second is that deeper knowing, like how big is the fire, how much gas is left in the tank. We've used a bunch of analogies here. Like that is a gut, that is a body feel, right? And you got to get a little quiet to answer that question.
Yeah.
So if it's a walk with nature, if it's a sitting meditation, if it's journaling, if it's going for a long bike ride, like I don't care what it is, but getting quiet with yourself enough to know the answer, like that's the same as kind of generalized self-awareness. And it's why that practice makes you a better leader. And that's how it interfaces with startups.
I love that, including this is often why founders in this crazy indecision thing is because they've lost sight of that. And that's why this decision is so hard and the repercussions of it, the uncertainty, the unknownness. And the line that I use a lot, which comes from the guy who started Firestone tires in his book from the 30s, is never underestimate how much time it takes to think. And
Mm,
what happens a lot of times in big decisions like this is there is no time to think because you've stolen that time for other non important things, including you're probably spending 6 to 10 hours a week worrying about this, which is that 6 to 10 hours a week if you could spend thinking. And of course, what am I trying to do is trying to get somebody who is completely on tilt to then manifest being a Zen Buddhist, and that's not
yeah.
always a wonder. I say 3 words and they get there.
Some cheap advice,
Yeah,
honestly,
cheap
for
advice.
founders who are struggling with this question. Like my cheapest advice is go take a vacation, see if you still
Yeah,
feel the same way on the other side of it, right? Like at least a week.
yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
founders
That
who took a leave of absence from their, like, where the business was doing okay, but like they had dissatisfaction. Um, like the board told them to take like take 4 weeks of leave.
yeah. Yeah, that's it's the
Better
right
plan.
answer when it's the right answer. And circumstance will tell if somebody's allowed or capable of doing that. The
Exactly.
the one that I gave one time in the true most crisisy thing, like 24, 48 hours from now, we're out of money, is I looked up the worst rated movie at the time. It's called The Dark Tower. And I told the guy to go see a midday showing and see if anything changed. It's like, of course, a company wouldn't change in that period. And if you go see a good movie, you're just, you're just playing hooky. But if you go see the worst rated movie, and of course, you don't need to actually do that. It's the perspective, the smile that you have right now, Julie, the laughter about
Yeah.
that to say, oh, wait, there is some perspective.
That's
Um, and I've just been completely overwhelmed and dominated by this chessboard in front of me. And I need to get up, walk away, take a look, and then realize the chessboard is just a game. And is playing this game serving me or not?
so I know we've talked about a lot of rich things. I have one more thing to add here,
Yes,
which
please.
is a false trap. Another way founders can be tired is they'll say, I was just talking to a founder who said this the other day. I'm tired of solving the same problem over and over. Like if I quit this business and do a different business, at least the problems will change. And my reply was, I have bad news for you.
Yeah.
The more effective you are as a startup leader, like the more laps you have here, the more you get to the core problems of any business faster. Right? So this was his first business. He's like 4 or 5 years in, and now he's like been wrestling with the same problems over and over for a couple years. I said, you're going to go to a different business and you're going to wrestle with it for 6 months and find the core problems. And then you'll be back in this spot
Yep.
even faster than you were this time around. And so finding a different thing to care. Like, so he's got this person has a 30-person startup that is sustainable and growing, maybe not as fast as he wants. Like, he wants it to go faster, right?
Sure.
But he's the CEO, and it's fulfilling his mission in the world, right? And we have a lot of conversations about, like, yeah, you could leave this, but this is actually not that easy to repeat. And the like wanting to jump to the grass is always greener somewhere else, man, you're going to be so dissatisfied. Like, that kind of founder doneness, I have really different advice. Like, that founder, we talk a lot about the platform that he has with the business success that he's helped with.
Yes. So important to understand that even if you can quit a company and have a large check, you're going to start a new company in the next 2 to 3 years. You're going to go through the entrepreneurial cycle again. And best case scenario is you own a bigger cap table of your next thing and you've got more personal wealth, but you're pretty much in the same spot you are now. And this is why, I work in a different world than you. Very few of my companies are venture backed. So we don't have to seek exits, even the startups. And I tell people don't seek exits if you've created a platform whereby your next idea is just a product line instead of a new company launch. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it forces founders to reckon with what's bigger in life than just solving problems.
Yep.
Because there's a certain emptiness to that in this world, that the sooner you figure that out, the more fulfilled as a founder you're going to be.
Yeah, I make all of my CEOs go through their why statements, which we talked about earlier in a different context. But I also go with them the Brewster's Millions problem, which is if I gave you $250 million and you had to spend it before you died and you didn't have any assets left, how would you do it? And it's an amazing thought process, but it goes back to you can't really spend that in a lifetime. And then you keep lowering that number. And then eventually they find the harmonic number where they know how much money they actually could spend in a lifetime as a reasonable person, including their kids never have to work. They give the right to a charity. They own this kind of house, right? And it almost always ends up being a lot less than they think. And then it's the richness of the work, not the finances, then that you're actually working for, because that number, if you're in this trajectory, you're going to hit. It's a function of time, not effort, not luck. Okay, so let's stop talking about that one then. Let's talk about the richness of the work. And that's all of a sudden when they start being able to say, oh, I now know why I'm here. I'm here because
Yeah.
I'm a good leader, because I'm a visionary, and I'm not going to quit that. This kind of goes back to now I need to make this sustainable so I get to scratch the other itches in my life. Family philanthropy.
So you want to talk about the soul startups? I think
Yes, please.
that's what you're getting at. It's the difference between success and satisfaction.
Oh, break that down for me.
Um, we have a lot of storytelling about what success is, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is external. I have a boat. I
Sure.
can go on a trip to Europe. My kids can go to the best schools, whatever it is, right? About what success, like all the external, that criteria. Satisfaction is the internal piece. I have a
Yeah.
satisfying life. I am happy. I have a relationship with nature, the universe, my spiritual sense that is meaningful to me. I know why I'm here. Those kinds of questions. And this journey, what the beautiful thing about startups is that they sort of force these questions on founders if they're open. You know what, even if they're not open, like, I think you just have to make so many decisions as a founder that it ends up really getting to the core of who you are
Yeah.
and what you're here for if you keep doing it long enough. And how you make those choices and how intentional or unintentional you are about them leads to satisfaction or dissatisfaction in yourself and in your
There's
work, and then your relationship to, like, what are you doing here?
two reflections on that, but some of the people that I knew who handle stress the best in the world are ultra distance marathon runners because they're like, look, if you can suffer that hard by yourself out there, like everything else, like you can handle. And being in a startup, being a founder is a little bit like that. It's like it forces you. Mile 28 of a 50-mile training run will force you to take a look at your demons and take a look at your ego and like reevaluate what's right. Yeah, I guess there are some sociopaths who can just get up and go, but not too
Um,
many. Go ahead.
oh no, I'm just laughing because the overlap between addiction recovery and
Oh
like
yeah,
business running is
and
huge.
founders.
Yeah, right. So it's like what are you addicted to and why, and like what hole is it filling, and why do you need it? Like yes, those questions are relevant here for sure.
Oh, for sure, and that's almost a universal for another conversation. Is
Yeah.
the what creates a good founder is always we have some level of brokenness in some weird way. We're my island of misfit toys, bipolar, dyslexic, recovering addict, even just polymath, high IQ didn't fit in. But I don't want to get into founder profiles there. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is what I like about the soul of the founders and what you're teaching me about it is, um, satisfaction seems like the wimpy way out, but you and I both know that it's what creates the successes.
I think it's what's going to matter on your deathbed.
Yeah, and that's the success,
Yeah.
right? But I also know that financially, the people I know who are satisfied, and satisfied is not the same as content. I find content to be more an idle, being idle. Satisfied is, I got the right food and enough of it in my body. I didn't gain weight, I didn't lose weight, and this is a good day for nutrition or metaphor.
Mhm.
Um, but again, like go back to that thing, if it takes you 7 years to be successful and you only have 5 years in the tank, because you weren't satisfied. But if you have 10 years because you are satisfied with the meaning of the work, you're making enough money to be able to represent yourself properly to your family, not so much that you're making it rain. That's the kind of person who hits that 7 year mark. And it could be 7 months, but
Yeah.
before they fade, before they break.
And I think smart investors know that. Like our I mean, I had this conversation with my venture partner, venture colleague yesterday about the sustainability. We were talking about the sustainability of the CEO founder that we had just written an additional check to, right? Like, how is he's living in New York. Does he have enough to make, he's about to be a dad,
Yep.
right? Like, does he have enough to build the company, at least partially, they're remote and hybrid, to build it in New York as a and have a family. Because if not, like something that's going to wear on the business. It's going to be a business risk, and no one wants that.
Yeah.
So I think
Um,
smart investors are aware.
well, we can debate
Wait, how many smart
when and
investors
how
are
to
out there?
find smart investors who do smart things like that. Because you said smart, not common, and so I think that's where we'll find our overlap on that particular one. Um, Julie, thank you so much for a bunch of frameworks. I can't wait to go through this and find a million little nuggets. Other thoughts, questions, comments, things to share
No, let's
before we wrap
let's
up?
we can talk about the exit priority pie chart another time, or I can just give you the 6 criteria.
Oh, just rant them off. Why not?
Yeah, and I'll give you the question I would have behind them. So I have six, and I would say add them up to 100% and split them, and your answers can change. Put it in pencil. Um, the financial return to my investors, if you have them, um, and can they have other wins? If it's not financial, I've seen $1 acquisitions to a big four tech company be something that an investor has bragged about. So, like,
Hmm.
there are other things on the table. Financial return to self. My question there is, what number is it? If you have one, right? Is it getting you back to even? Is it 1x, 2x? Is it a certain number? What? Do employees get to keep their jobs if you have employees? And a question there is, do they want to stay before you start optimizing for that? Do you have a job or benefits, right? So if you think about an acquisition or selling your company, like, do you want the security of a landing spot? And the question is, what makes you feel safe? Is it, I have healthcare, I have a year-long contract? And that is in direct opposition to your freedom,
Hmm.
right? So lots of acquisitions come with lockups for founders, right? I know a company that had a very successful financial return to themselves and secondarily to their investors, but they had a 4-year lockup
Ooh.
in their young professional, like, what boundaries do you have around your free? And some founders, it's like, I want out of this thing, I want to walk away. And that's like half the value of this is I don't have to think about this thing ever. And if that's you, that's okay. Just
It's
know
totally okay.
in your pie chart what your priority is. And then the solution lives on or has a home, or your customers still have the product. And I think that it's important to know, why is that important? Is it important because you built the thing and you still want the thing to exist in the world, which maybe is ego, to your point before. Maybe that was ego from that, now that I think about it. Um, or is it like, I don't want my customers to get hung out to dry?
Yep.
Or, I want, this is my contribution in the world. Or what, why? Why do you want this to keep existing? Because no one's ever going to love it the same way you did as
Nor
a
are they
founder.
supposed to.
And actually, there is an emotional, this is like how sometimes in hospitals, like they don't ask the loved one to pull the plug, right? Like they have a nurse do that, or
Yeah.
somebody else pulls the switch. You could think about, if, especially if your business is in an industry that's consolidating, or there's just like, it's not work, but you can't do it. You can sell your business to someone who doesn't have the same emotional attachment, who will then have the bravery to, if needed, pull the plug. But you got to be okay with that.
It's funny because that's actually what happened with my mom's company. The original product turned out to never get past founder-led sales, but led to the good product. And then when my mom effectively left the company to be president of the board, the CEOs all ignored the founder-led sales one. The other product, which is the one that I helped invent, took off. Well, by the end of it, it was like it was ended up being 3% of the sales price, because they knew that they couldn't not pay for the second product that had been effectively like in a nascent stage for 15 years, because the founder loved it too much and she just couldn't see it die. And of course, then they buy it and they kill the baby, which in that case, it was a company about helping babies live. But that's another, just metaphors get ironic. Okay. So investors return, personal financial return, employees have jobs. Um, will I have a job afterwards? And does that meet my needs? Um, and then does the mission live on? Was there
And
another one?
your
And your
freedom.
freedom. And great. And so go through that metaphor, go through that, sorry, pie chart, appropriate 100%. And then I guess the last thing is then take a look at it and say, if this is true, is this in my integrity? Is this a wise decision? Right? Knowledge and wisdom, knowledge and morality coming together. That's wise decision. Is this a
Yeah.
wise decision? I love that.
You can now as you're meeting people, right? You can, now you're through this lens thinking about different opportunities that might be in front of you based on what your priorities are. Um, there's one thing missing actually from this pie chart that I've hinted out, but I'll say it more explicitly. I have had companies that were in a horse race or a consult. Maybe I talked about the COVID company, right? There are moments where a market is shifting under your feet, and
Yes.
that will make all of this either disregard or speed up, right? Like all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm only on mile 10, but my industry is on mile 24. And
Yes.
and we gotta figure, okay, we're on exit plans because so you can't put your head in the sand. Like it's like the other, it's connecting that analogy about mile markers to the overall market conditions. We talked about how it could or could not be related to growth. It also is important to think about market conditions.
Oh, I helped shut down a company last year, 18 months ago, 15 million in sales. They were doing everything right. MVP was out there. They had revenue, they had users, they had everything. And then they just looked and said, we're never going to catch up. Like there's no pace that we can ever have to catch up. And the enterprise people have already consolidated to a level where they're going to grow at 2x our speed from a technology perspective, no matter how much we raise, no matter how smart we are, tall or handsome. And so they joined the consolidation thing, and it was a very
All the
sad
time.
day, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it was the issue at hand. Well, Julie, it's a lot of frameworks. I can't wait to take a look and break
Hmm.
out how many frameworks we talked about like this. I just really want to thank you for being my first ever interviewee on the Delta Awesome channel.
That's great.
And it's pretty great to have you, my friend. And thank you so much for your time.
I enjoyed the conversation, and I really appreciate the pattern matching that we've both done with companies that have been, because for founders,